So the UFC just kind of responded to the PFL and Francis Ngannou situation by coming out with their own massive announcement. They've announced UFC 291 and UFC 292 with a lot of fights and absolutely banger fights on there as well. This is going to be such a crazy good event and I genuinely cannot wait to talk about it. I'm going to talk about all of these fights individually in separate videos probably throughout the week, so you will get a lot of kind of individual early predictions and just me talking about the fights and how I feel about them a little bit in depth more in future videos. But these are kind of all of the fights here. Shout out to Big Marcel on Instagram. Big Marcel24 is like the go-to person for all fight announcements. You know, he does post them pretty much before everyone else does, and he posts every fight. Like, he posts prelims, he posts main events, he posts everything that you need to know. It's a very good page to follow, in my opinion, to keep up with MMA news. But on top of that as well, as I said kind of at the very beginning, this is the UFC's big response to the Francis Ngannou PFL situation, right? Because what has happened is Francis Ngannou and PFL just did this massive announcement, and the UFC, as a good business practice would do, has also tried to nullify the competition's announcement, because at the moment it would have just been PFL and Francis Ngannou taking up the news today. But now the UFC's come in, they haven't crushed the news because PFL and Ngannou is a big announcement, but they're putting their name alongside it. So now you're not just talking about PFL and Ngannou, you're talking about PFL and Ngannou and the UFC. Now a lot of people probably will say, oh, this is unfair, this is savage, this is that. This is just business, right? This is just how business works. I do know firsthand, I do have family members that do own business, and that's what it is. The business world is a savage place. It's every man for themselves, and the UFC are trying to do that themselves and kind of let PFL know that, hey, they're not messing around. UFC ain't messing around, and that's what they're doing here with these massive announcements, and this is one of them. The main event of UFC 291 in Salt Lake City is going to be Dustin Poirier versus Justin Gaethje in a rematch. Interestingly, it will be for the BMF title. I don't really know how I feel about it being for the BMF title. I think that's a bit like just to kind of put it on the main event and make a belt for it, you know. But it's cool. Would I say these two probably are the BMFs of the division? I mean, probably not, you know, because they both, you know, haven't really been fighting the up-and-coming prospects for a long time. But it's going to be a banger fight. I like it. And on top of that as well, I feel like if Justin Gaethje wins, we genuinely might get a trilogy as well, which would be very fun, especially between these two, because they're almost guaranteed to put on a good fight. I really am looking forward to this fight. I think Justin Gaethje might be able to take it, but I'll talk about that in the predictions later. It is worth noting it's in Salt Lake City, so cardio could be a big thing. And speaking of UFC 291, the co-main event, dude, this is so good, man. You've got Jan Blachowicz taking on Alex Pereira, and Jan Blachowicz, as you guys know, is a really good, and I would say probably underappreciated striker at light heavyweight. He's a very good striker, but Alex Pereira moving up from middleweight to light heavyweight, this is a good fight for him, man. I really do like this fight. He's taking on another striker. Jan Blachowicz can offensively wrestle, but against really good wrestlers and grapplers, he does struggle a little bit. But is Alex Pereira a really good wrestler and grappler? No, I don't think so. But I think this is a good fight, right? Like, you know, Jan Blachowicz and Alex Pereira moving up a weight class. If he beats Jan Blachowicz, he probably earns a title shot as well, which just makes things so interesting for Alex Pereira's career. This is big news. This is big news. I really do like it. I think I might go with Alex Pereira, because Jan Blachowicz is starting to age a little bit. And on top of that as well, you can't forget Jan Blachowicz beats Israel Adesanya. So imagine if Alex Pereira goes out there and beats Jan Blachowicz. Like, imagine the conversations we could start having about that. That makes things very interesting. The next one is, I think this is genius. Like, people are gonna complain. People are gonna say this is weird. This isn't weird. This is not a weird matchup, and I will kind of do a completely separate video talking about how this is like the Strickland versus Magomedov fight. This is like genius matchmaking for the UFC, and the reason why it's genius matchmaking for the UFC is Israel Adesanya currently sits at the top of the middleweight division, and he has fought absolutely everybody in the rankings. So what they're going to do, and what they're trying to do, is absolutely boost Magomedov to fight Sean Strickland, get him up high up in the rankings. But now they've got the number 5 Paulo Costa taking on unranked Ikram Aliskerov. And if Ikram Aliskerov goes on to beat Paulo Costa, all of a sudden he's in the title conversation to fight Israel Adesanya, and Israel Adesanya has not fought Ikram Aliskerov because he's already fought Paulo Costa, he's already fought the guys at the top, he's already fought Vittori, he's already fought, oh man, Brunson, Whitaker, he's already fought everyone except for Duplessis pretty much, right? So they're trying to get new contenders, and I think this is smart. I like this move. Ikram Aliskerov versus Paulo Costa. I think Paulo Costa probably would win, but I'll talk about this matchup a little bit more in a separate video. Tony Ferguson versus Bobby Green. Some people don't like this. I like this. Bobby Green is an old guy. You know what I mean? Like, Bobby Green isn't like this young up-and-coming dude. Bobby Green is also a veteran of like 50 fights, about 50 fights. Tony Ferguson is also a veteran. It is a step down in competition for Ferguson, even though he did lose to Nate Diaz, which was a really bad look. But people don't like it. People will kind of disagree with this one. They will complain about this one. I think this is a good booking. This is a good booking. I think this is a respectable booking. Because Bobby Green's like 37, 38 himself. Like, he's an older guy. Tony Ferguson's an older guy. He does deserve these older fights. I think Bobby Green would probably beat up Tony Ferguson, which is unfortunate. But you got to give Tony Ferguson these older guys. You can't give Tony Ferguson these young up-and-comers. And what's interesting as well is it's at 155 pounds, which is interesting as well. But I don't mind this fight for Tony. I think it's a winnable fight for Tony. I don't think he wins though. I'm not that sure. I'll think about it. I think there's a good chance Tony wins. I think maybe people won't like that take, but I think Tony does have a good chance in this fight. Is he the same fighter he once was? No, but Bobby Green's not a young up-and-coming guy either. And then we've got the opening fight. The first fight of the main card is going to be Kevin Holland versus Michael Chiesa. Kevin Holland did kind of hint that he was going to be fighting a wrestler. I think he posted on Instagram or Twitter or something, I have a fight booked. Time to start sniffing some jock straps or something. I think something along those lines. And we kind of knew that he was going to fight a wrestler. And now we know who it is. Michael Chiesa is making his long-awaited return. He hasn't fought in a very long time. And now he will be fighting Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland's obviously the young up-and-coming guy. I believe Michael Chiesa's got his ranking spot back as well now that he's back. Or I don't know if he was ever removed from the rankings. But this is an interesting one too. Because I feel like Chiesa... I don't think Chiesa's that great, but he is a really good wrestler and he is a really good grappler. Now, I do believe Kevin Holland does have a black belt in BJJ, but I don't know. I think Holland can win this one just because I feel like he's going to be so much better on the feet than Michael Chiesa. Like, Michael Chiesa, I have said, is like one of the worst strikers in the welterweight division of all time. So I think there's a good chance Holland, if he can stuff the takedowns, which he isn't really known for doing, but if he can stuff the takedowns, if he can scramble, if he can even maybe grapple and stay safe, I think if he can keep the fight on the feet, I think he can have success. I think he can find success in the fight. And then the prelim, Marcos Rogerio de Lima taking on Derek Lewis. I like this one. I do like it. Someone did comment the high elevation will make the sloppy. That's true. But I think someone wins. I think Derek Lewis wins this. And on top of that, I actually did call for this fight in my prediction, in my fights to make next video as well. Do I think that this fight has been made because I said that? No, I'm not delusional. It's just the fight that made the most sense. And I think the UFC has just gone with the fight that makes sense, you know, because Derek Lewis is like old. I think he's almost 40. Marcos Rogerio de Lima is also almost 40. They're both kind of veterans, you know. Derek Lewis has got a lot of fights. Marcos Rogerio de Lima also has like 30 fights or so. I like this one. I like this one a lot, and it's on the prelims as well. And on top of that, the prelims is going to be on ABC, so a lot of people will be watching this. This is a big card. I really like it. But we've also got another prelim fight, dude. Stephen Thompson versus Mikhail Pereira has been rebooked. I do think there was a problem. I'm not too sure. I'm not going to confirm this and say it's true. But I do think the rumor was that Mikhail Pereira's team couldn't get visas to fight in Canada, or maybe Mikhail Pereira couldn't get a visa to fight in Canada. I could be wrong. I genuinely could be wrong, but I think that was the rumor. And I like this fight as well. Like, you know, it's been removed from the Canada card. I like it too. It's a striking fight. It's what Stephen Thompson wants. Mikhail Pereira has been working on his grappling though. I think this is just fantastic though. I think this is just going to be fantastic. I actually like Stephen Thompson in this matchup. I think he might be able to beat Mikhail Pereira because it will be a striking fight. And although Stephen Thompson is super old, he still is so good at striking. You know, he's still so good at striking, so I like that. And now we move on to UFC 292. The main event is confirmed in Boston. It's going to be Aljamain Sterling taking on Sean O'Malley. I think this fight makes sense. This fight really does make sense. I think Sterling does submit Sean O'Malley within like 2 rounds. But I think it's a good fight. It's a fight that makes sense. I mean, O'Malley was always the #1 contender. And I was kind of wondering what they were going to do with the rest of the division, because there are a bunch of guys that potentially have earned title shots as well around 135. And I'm kind of glad this is going to keep the division going. I like that Aljamain Sterling has been active. I'm wondering if he's going to vacate the belt after this, though, because he potentially might. But that's a good fight. I do like this booking. I do like Sterling by submission in the matchup. But I think Sean O'Malley... I think people do actually underrate the skill set of Sean O'Malley. You know, I do actually think... And this might be a hot take. Like you got to let me cook here. This might be a really hot take. I actually think that... Sean O'Malley might have the best striking, pure striking in the bantamweight division. I think he's that good on the feet. So it'll be interesting. I don't think that Sterling wants this fight on the feet, though. I think he's going to want to take him down. And, yeah, I think he does take him down. I think he submits him within 2 rounds. And then on top of that, this is an interesting one. Personally, I think this is a missed opportunity. They've gone with Weili Zhang taking on Amanda Lemos. I think Weili Zhang wins this fight. I like to see the announcement from Weili Zhang because I have been waiting for a Weili Zhang announcement for a while because she's not that young. Like, I think she's like 33 years old, which is pretty old at 135 pounds. The reason why I say this is maybe a missed opportunity is because I really kind of wanted Weili Zhang versus Yan Xiaonan in China. I think that would have been a great opportunity to put an event on in China, and then on top of putting an event on in China, you would have had 2 Chinese fighters headlining it, maybe put a fight night. But I think what they might do, now that they have done this, I've kind of got an idea of maybe what they're thinking of. They've got the Road to UFC competition going on right now, the tournament for Road to UFC, the tournament, I've made a couple of videos on it now, just check my channel and my recent videos. The Road to UFC tournament is for fighters from Asia to get into the UFC. They've got to win this tournament to get in. And they always put the finals on the prelim of a fight night card. So why not put a fight night card on in China at the very end of the year when this Road to UFC tournament is going to wrap up and put Weili Zhang versus Yan Xiaonan in the headliner? I think that makes sense. I think Weili Zhang does win this fight, and I think that's what they're going to want to do. Put the event on in China, and I think that's cool. I mean, I don't really mind the fight. Has Lemos really earned the title shot? Maybe not, but it's a good fight. It's a good fight, I don't mind it. And that's all the fights that were announced. I'm waiting on Tapology to do this, and then I'll do the individual fights later. But let me know what you think. This really is the UFC's big response to PFL and Francis Ngannou. Like, this is massive. Like, this is some big news, and we've got some really massive events coming up, and I'm really excited about it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What is your favorite fight? And even then, who do you think will win some of these fights? Maybe give me a couple of predictions on who you think will win the fights in the comments below. If you've made it this far and you haven't liked the video, please do, and please subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you guys in the next video, which will probably be like individual breakdowns of these massive fights that are coming out. And thank you guys for watching again, and I'll see you guys in the next one.